Ready, start. The government must make adequate arrangements to sell fruits and vegetables through consumer shops and other outlets. This problem is very acute in cities taking advantage of cold storage facilities. The big wholesalers store these items and retail them bit by bit into the market and they make huge profit. There is a monitoring cell in the civil supplies department, but more effective steps will have to be taken to the control the prices. Now I come to some of the problems of my state Kerala. The distribution of rice and palm oil is not being done properly in the state. This is causing a lot of problems to the public. This only shows that the state government is not managing the distribution properly. It is not enough that they get supplies fair. Distribution has also to be ensured. That is the duty of the state government, which is not being discharged by that government. However, I take this opportunity to demand that Kerala should be given 2 lakh tons of rice and 10,000 tons of palm oil per month, and adequate quantity of kerosene and sugar should also be supplied. I would also request the government to see whether the food grains and other items supplied by the center are being distributed properly. There is a tendency in the present front left front government in Kerala to mismanage the distribution and put the blame on the center. So the central government should be very vigi- vigilant about it. Similarly, under the present practice, 50% of the ration is subsidized by the center. I have a suggestion to make in this regard. This subsidized ration should be supplied to them at a time, otherwise they are not in a position to buy it, and the shopkeeper will take all the benefits of the subsidy. The public distribution system in Kerala has been widely acclaimed, but the state government is not doing anything to strengthen it. This is evident from the fact that the state government has made only a very small token provision in the budget for the public distribution system. This is a politically motivated step, because if the public distribution system fails, they can always put the blame on the center. I would therefore request the center to meet fully the requirements of Kerala for food grains and other essential commodities like kerosene and edible oil, and strengthen the public distribution system in the state. I would also request the Honorable Minister for Food and Civil Supplies to take steps to monitor the distribution effectively. I once again support the demands of the Ministry of Food and Civil Supplies. And with these words, I conclude. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, I thank you for giving me time to speak even at this late hour. I am supporting the demands of the Ministry of Food and Civil Supplies. The ministry has the responsibility to provide food to the people all over the country, and I am happy to say that it is discharging this responsibility efficiently. The public distribution system has a great role to play in the controlling the prices of essential commodities. This is one of the important items in the Prime Minister's 20-point program. It is the duty of the government to provide food at fair prices to the poor people, and the policy of the government is to open fair price shops in all nooks and corners of the country. I find that the number of fair price shops has steadily gone up over a period of time. For example, in 1979 we had 3 lakh fair price shops, which have increased to 4 lakhs in 1987. 78% of these shops are in the rural areas, which shows the government's concern about the people in the rural areas. But in this context, I want to draw the attention of the government to the complaints that many things are not available in the fair price shops in the rural areas. Therefore, the government must monitor the distribution of the food grains which it supplies. Another point I want to make in this connection is that the government should increase the number of items distributed through the fair price shops. For example, pulses are very essential for nutritious diet. Therefore, pulses should also be distributed through fair price shops. The central government has a scheme to provide financial assistance to the civil supplies corporation in northeastern states Sikkim, Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, etc. for the construction of godowns. There was a demand from Kerala for similar aid, but it has not been considered. Therefore, I would request the Honorable Minister to consider favorable the request from the Kerala Civil Supplies Corporation for assistance to construct godowns in the state. It is one of the most important duties of the Department of Food and Civil Supplies to control the prices of essential commodities. I must say in this context that there has been very heavy price rise in respect of fruits and vegetables throughout the country. Now, madam, this bill intends to set up a corporation in place of the existing board. We are told that this corporation will continue to perform the same function as the old board. We are told that the board has been working very well and has been responsible for the development of the cooperative movement all these years. If that is so, I cannot understand the necessity for setting up a corporation different from the board. If the functioning of the board has been satisfactory, what is the necessity for forming a corporation? What are the other advantages that we are having in forming a corporation? We could gather from the annual report on the corporation issued by the Ministry of Community Development and the speech of the Deputy Minister that the board has been only an advancing agency for the respective states. Of course, they have set up 3 or 4 committees to go into the question of the various aspects of the cooperative movement. I think this job can be done by the ministry itself. Now, coming to the composition of this corporation and of the executive committee as it is envisaged in the bill, it is evident that it is practically riddled with government officials. There is only a sprinkling of non-official representation. I can understand the constitution of the board as it is done by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. We know the views with regard to democratic decentralization of the Minister of Food and Agriculture, but I cannot understand how the Minister of Community Development, who lays great stress on and gives importance to democratic decentralization, can copy the same old method that was there with regard to the composition of the old board and incorporate it in the new legislation, practically going back on his own recommendations that the cooperative movement must be representative of or carried on by non-official bodies. It is relevant at this time to point out that the Prime Minister himself has pointed out that the cooperative movement must be actually carried on by non-official bodies and that official interference must be the least. But when we take into consideration the composition of the corporation and the executive committee, non-official representation is practically negligible. So all these factors have to be taken into consideration again before the bill was brought forward before the House. The government should have taken advantage to liberalize certain regulations, taking into account the past experience and impediments in the growth of the cooperative movement. The government have tried to make this legislation more conducive the development of the cooperative movements. Mr. Deputy Chairman, I would like to welcome bill which has been introduced by our eminent leader Shri Pant, who has suggested that it should go to a joint select committee. I would particularly like to welcome The proposals regarding the removal of the ban on practice by High Court judges after retirement. The present position is that there is an absolute ban on their practice, and the result is that courts are finding it increasingly difficult to get a suitable class of lawyers to accept seats on the benches of the courts. It is necessary, it is vital for the preservation of democracy in this country, for the preservation of human freedom, and for the protection of the average citizen in this country, that our high court should continue to have the confidence, the respect, and the esteem of the people. But if as a result of existing provisions the quality of our courts goes down, the quality of our democracy will suffer. It is a tribute to the patriot, patriotism of our bars that so far there has been no deterioration in the quality of our recruitment to the bench. Members of the bar who are enjoying good practice have considered it in most cases a patriotic duty to accept judgeship when that has been offered to them. But after all, a man has to think of his future, and the position is that a member of the bar, when he is offered a judgeship, does not know what he will have to do with himself after the attains the age of 62. It is demoralizing to see retired High Court judges seeking re-employment after their retirement. The foundation of judicial independence in England, or in any other democratic country for that matter, is the life tenure of judges. It is not suggested that we can have a life tenure in this country. It may be that there was a case for a higher age limit when the constitution was being framed, but we know that as people age quickly in our country, it will not be possible to have a life tenure. The foundation of the independence of the judiciary is that once a judge is appointed in Britain, he does not get any increment in his salary. Even when he is promoted to a court of appeal, he does not get any financial preferment. Now I should like to say a few words about the provisions regarding additional or temporary judges. The present provisions regarding ad hoc judges are very unsatisfactory. Courts are in huge areas in the code with which I was associated for more than 7 years. We had, I believed, over 25,000 cases in area. Now these areas are largely a legacy of the past, and I can tell you that with all the speed that judges may possess, it is not possible for them with the existing number of judges to cope with the amount of work in our courts. Criminal work has increased, writ work has increased, other classes of work have also increased. It is necessary to have additional judges for the disposal of areas. These areas, I hope, represent a temporary situation, but I cannot sure of this. I do not think they represent a permanent phenomenon. Once these areas have been cleared off, it will be possible for us to fix or to determining the permanent strength of our courts with some degree of assurance. I am therefore glad that advantage is being taken now that the constitution is being amended to provide for the appointment of additional judges. There were some legal doubts about what an ad hoc judge could or could not do, and it was therefore necessary that provisions for additional judges should be included in the amending bill. I hope that in appointing additional judges, care will be taken to appoint members of the bar who are not likely to revert to the profession after their term as additional judge is over. That is to say, appoint a man whom you are going to appoint as a permanent man in the initial instance, if you like, as an additional judge, and then confirm him as a permanent judge when the permanent vacancy occurs. Another suitable class of persons to be appointed as additional judge are district judges. If you want a district judge to become ultimately a permanent judge of the High Court, you may appoint him in the initial instance as an additional judge or as a temporary judge. You can also invite retired high court judges for definite periods to act as additional judges. Particularly, this should be the case when a judge goes on temporary leave or on leave for a few months, for in that case it may not be desirable to appoint a member of the bar to act in his vacancy, because after the judge comes back to the bar he gets possible advantage which his colleagues do not possess. Stop.